Welcome in, everybody. We are courtside here, finally here for the final time in Salem. It is Hoopsville Courtside live from the Salem Civic Center. Teams are not yet on the field. It's a little bit It's a little bit early as we get ready. A little bit truncated, but we're getting ready for Division III basketball for the final time, at least on the men's side, in Salem, Virginia. Welcome in. I am Dave McHugh, joined by Ryan Scott, and he is Pat Coleman.
Hi.
He's come back. We brought him back one more time. Craziest Final Four we could possibly have to finish the Salem era, to be blunt. One top 25 team, and the rest are, oh, hey, we wanted to be there too.
Yeah, how about that? It's been it's the capper to a fantastic season, right? A crazy, unpredictable season with a crazy, unpredictable Final Four. Springfield on a great run after 8 regular season losses. Ramapo, which seemed like, there were periods of the season where they were hot and looked like they could contend deep into the tournament, then come through, and now we have an NJAC tournament, an NJAC team here at this level for the first time since 2009. UW Oshkosh had all of these great teams back in the aughts that never got this far, and here they are at the national semifinals as well. It's going to be great. I'm just looking forward to putting the cap on this crazy, unpredictable season with an unpredictable national championship.
Nebraska Wesleyan finally put all their chips into Division III, and 2 years later they're here, Ryan. Yeah. This is just you and I both vote, and Pat's kind of one of our backups in this top 25. We've been saying all year there's parity, there's balance, and this tournament was going to be wide open. Okay, I didn't think it was going to be that wide open. I mean, open the door, sure, but not crazy wide open.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we've kind of always hoped for, right? We say it's wide open. It doesn't always work out quite the same, even if there's a few surprises. But this time, I mean, it's just the depth. There's so many good teams. You get, everybody back healthy and going on a run towards the end of the season. Just about anything can happen, and we've proven that this year.
Couple of odd notes I picked up while putting my notes together. First, we have 2 state schools in the sense of the NJAC representative in Ramapo and the Wisconsin representative in Oshkosh. We have 2 teams that were at-larges, so they're only on 4-game winning streaks. They're not really diving into this. They haven't been going a while in full throat. The other oddity, there's no purple here whatsoever. A lot of black, a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow, I mean. It feels a little strange not to see some purple in this gym.
It's fantastic. I pulled out a completely different color. Often I bring purple because it's often a neutral color. There are so many purple teams that it could stand for anything. So I got to wear red, which I was pretty happy about. But yeah, it's again, once upon a time, purple was not the dominant color in Division III. It was it was gold and brown for Rowan for a couple years, and Nebraska Wesleyan was here way back when we first started having games here. And so it's kind of a little bit of full circle there too.
We've seen these teams work their way through the tournament, and again, wide open. But, I was talking to Dale Wellman, made the comment, they were almost disappointed they didn't play WashU because they didn't feel like they had a signature victory. And I'm thinking, you still beat Platteville, you still beat the #1 team in the country, and you smoked them by 30. Springfield had to come from behind in a lot of their games, some hot shooting, especially the games you saw, Ryan, last weekend, to get past some favorites, for lack of a better description. They were the quintessential last team in, not officially the last pick, but the last one on the bracket to be revealed, taking full opportunity of that. Ramapo kind of disappeared off everybody's radar because after the D3Hoops.com Classic, and even there, they didn't look that strong a team. The NJAC beat them up, so everyone kind of stopped paying attention. And Oshkosh was all over the place in what was a tough WIAC. I tell people I had them number 4 in my top 25 early in January, and then eventually worked them out because I couldn't be confident they were going to win games. I mean, this has literally been an up-and-down season for all 4 of these teams.
Yeah, and it kind of gives us a little lesson in beginning of the year, we look at who has the talent coming back, and we've got 3 of these teams that would have been right at the top of that list. Oshkosh, I think, probably straight talent, the top of the WIAC, and Ramapo was ranked really high in the preseason poll. Nebraska Wesleyan, they're young, but we knew that they were really talented guys. They got a whole bunch of awards last year. Springfield's a little bit of a surprise, but Jake Ross was our freshman rookie of the year last year. We know he's good, and he just keeps impressing. So maybe it's just a lesson to just stick with it, and even if they go through a few hard times during the season, to know that maybe the talent wins out in the end.
I think Nebraska Wesleyan is the biggest surprise because of how much they dominated last weekend, of course, is certainly part of it. But also true, the Iowa Conference has never had a team in the Final Four. In the previous there's a bunch of banners on that wall over there that signify all the Final Fours that have been held without a rep from the Iowa Conference, and this is the first time that anyone has broken through out of there. It's tough to get out of that region. It's tough to get out of that half of the country and get here, and you're not the best. You're not the champion of the best conference in your region. Sometimes it's hard to get here, but Nebraska Wesleyan finally just kind of blew the doors off of everybody in the end.
Literally against Whitman. By the way, 2 IAC schools in Final Fours. Warburg on the women's side, second trip for them in 3 years. Of course, on the women's side, it's 3 of the top 5 teams in the country. 4 of the top 5 teams in the country, which is insane in another way, because they've even had a little bit more parity. I'm not going to ask you guys right now for picks. It's a little early in that. But what have you gathered from just – you guys wrote a lot of the stories this week at d3hoops.com. What did you gather from talking to some teams, talking to some coaches, talking to others that maybe either changed your opinion about this weekend or just maybe opened your eyes a little bit more?
The big thing for me talking to the Springfield guys was that they seem like they have been here before. They act like this is not the end. I know Coach Strong talked about how they were a little wide-eyed their first game, but once they got that first win under their belt, they just set their sights on the title, and they've been working towards it. And you've seen that on the court, because I wouldn't say that they are the most talented team on paper, and they've been beating teams that you would not expect them to beat because they are determined. And a lot of times when you see teams you don't expect to be here, they're happy to be here, and maybe not as focused. But that Springfield team, very focused, and that's something that has impressed me.
Nebraska Wesleyan just, like I said, I mentioned blowing the doors off. I saw them play in the game against Platteville on Friday night. Packed house, 93% Platteville fans. And, they came out strong, and it just never really let up. I had read, Ryan, your piece about conditioning. That was your piece?
Yeah. No, it was some.
Was it Nathan's piece about conditioning?
It may have been.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in the story, yeah. We get confused.
I read Nathan Ford's piece about conditioning, and I was watching them just put it into practice. Even with the media timeouts, which definitely adds an extra layer because you get to sit your guys down for a minute and a half or so every 4 minutes, they were still doing it with 7 guys. Yeah. Basically 7 guys were that rotation. And it was just really impressive. They were up fairly big, and then they kind of held them at arm's length for a while. And then Platteville came back in at 2 big shots, a 2 and a 3, with about a minute to go to cut the lead back down to 2. And Nebraska Wesleyan had spent the last couple of possessions just slowing the game down, starting at about the 5-minute mark, trying to just run the clock out a little bit. And I was concerned that them having taken the foot off the gas a little bit might have,
open the door.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But they turned it right back on. They got the winning basket from Shimonitz with 3.1 seconds to go. Platteville never got an opportunity to final shot, couldn't get the ball into the front court, and it was just an amazing night of basketball. And then forget the next night, 130-97. There's no precedent really for beating the number 1 team by 33 points in the Elite 8.
Not when you shoot 68% as well, 62% from beyond the arc. And Eric Bridgeland in his post-game comments I thought was very, understanding. He's like, hey, sometimes you just run into these games. Hats off to them. They played really well. And when we talked to him on Hoopsville prior to that weekend, he kind of sensed that these guys were okay if they were going to lose. They felt like they were playing well. They realized losses happen and they might get tripped up. They're really well prepared.
I know Ryan was particularly focused on Oshkosh getting to this level. I thought you had to. I think that you felt like they certainly had the opportunity to get out of the first weekend, right?
Oh yeah. I thought Oshkosh. I had them through losing to Augustana in the Elite 8, and obviously that was an overtime game.
How could you? No, I'm just kidding.
Obviously that was an overtime game. But I thought a really talented team all the way through it, and had room to surprise. So, I mean, I didn't pick them to the Final Four, but I picked them as far as any of these other teams. So I guess that's the one I sort of saw coming.
And then with Ramapo, the other thing I've spotted with them is they seem to finally settled in with each other. And we've known them to play a long time with each other, which is something rare for Ramapo. Yeah, we're used to a lot of turnover mid-season. We joke about it at the Vegas Classic because we're always changing our rosters. We don't know who's going to play, but they've settled into it. And after not seeming to be on the same page, in the last few weeks, few months even, about late January, they've really seemed to come together as a unit. Bonnicum starts to feel comfortable, especially battling off some injuries that it feels like Mosley starts to understand his role a little bit better, and that comfort level seems to have them really playing with ease, and that makes them dangerous to some degree because they weren't comfortable, Pat, in Vegas. They looked a little off.
Well,
I mean, they were comfortable, but overconfident, and it caused them to be really off.
They're having to change. They lost their center from last year to this year. Most of the roster's the same, but they're having to kind of change the roles that everybody's playing and the way they're running that offense. And I can imagine, especially with Mosley and Bonnicum both being big guys who can play down low, figuring that out and getting that rotation and balance worked out is important for them. We
should also point out Chuck McGreen talks a lot about also getting their heads out of understanding that it's not one floor, it's two sides of the floor. If you're playing bad on offense, who cares? Make sure you play bad on defense. And he feels that for a long time. They would play bad on offense, they'd also play bad on defense or vice versa, and it would kill their entire game. And now they finally seem to have figured out, okay, our shots aren't falling. Doesn't mean we don't go down to the other end of the court and shut them down because we need to get the ball back. And then we saw that with MIT. I think they did, they kind of weathered some storms against MIT, but then went and got the job done when they needed to as well.
Sure. I think before and I assume we're going to break here in a second, but I think it'd be instructive just to kind of remind people who the 4 teams were that each of these teams beat. Because, since none of these teams were ranked when the tournament started, other than Oshkosh being ranked 24th, that means that, there's a big part of their resume is based on what they've done in the last 4 games. So Ramapo beat Moravian, they beat Williams on the road, then at home they beat Franklin and Marshall, and they beat MIT. UW Oshkosh beat Marietta on a neutral floor, then they won at Wittenberg. Wittenberg was in the top 10 of our poll by a significant margin coming into the tournament. They played Emory and beat them at Augustana, and they won at Augustana in overtime. For Nebraska Wesleyan, it's Maryville of Tennessee and Aurora. They won those 2 games at Wash U in the first weekend. Then they won at UW Platteville, and then they beat top-ranked Whitman in the round of 8. And for Springfield, it was a game against Albright at Cabrini. Then they won at Cabrini the following night. And in the round of 16, they beat Hamilton on a neutral floor and won at Swarthmore in the round of 8.
Yeah, if you don't pick up Springfield, the one who beat 2 hosts to get here.
It's true.
In their round. Granted, again, Nebraska Wesleyan wishes they weren't playing Aurora. They played Wash U.
None of these, none of those 4 are traditional powers, right? Williams is a traditional power. Sure. Franklin and Marshall, you go back, they're a traditional power. Yep. MIT more recently. On the Ramapo side, Wisconsin Oshkosh just played a tremendous road to get here. And Nebraska Wesleyan not only won at Platteville, but beat the #1 team.
Also point out, Ramapo, the only host in the last weekend to get through, too.
That's true, too.
There was a lot of chaos.
All that drama about who gets to host the round of 16, and rarely does it ever happen that all 4 get through.
I think it's usually the average is just under
about
half.
50%.
Yeah, and this year proved it doesn't really matter at all. A couple things coming up on the show here. We're about to hear from all the student athletes. Not all the student athletes. That would be ridiculous. We'd have a 20-hour pregame show. We'll hear from our student athlete from each of the teams represented in order of the games. We'll come back, kind of break it down a little bit more, maybe get a coach on depending on how things are going. We'll also hear from both sets of coaches of this semifinal about how they feel things are matching up X's and O's wise. And then these 2 guys will wrap up the broadcast as we get ready for the NCAA Turner production, which you can find, of course, all the links for today's games, both men and women. Go up at the d3hoops.com, up in the scoreboard section. You can find the links that you need. So we'll take a break right now. When we come back, we'll start talking to the student athletes. We talked to Brian Boots, right?
Ben
Boots. I had the right B. My brain's done. Ben, great. And we haven't even started the day.
Good start of the day. Let's go.
Ben Boots from Oshkosh. We talked to Ramapo's Tommy Bonnicum. From Nebraska Wesleyan, we talked to Cooper Cook. And from Springfield, of course, we talk to Jake Ross. Why wouldn't we, right? Those are the 4 coming up here on Hoopsville Courtside Live. If you want to interact with us, it'll be hard, but we'll try and interact back on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or at D3Hoops using the hashtag Hoopsville or D3H. We normally simulcast on Facebook. Not today. A little too much going on, but we are there at facebook.com/Hoopsville as well. And you can try and email us. I'll check the emails during the interviews, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. He's Pat Coleman. He's Ryan Scott. I'm Dave McHugh. We'll take a break. When we come back, plenty more here from Hoopsville Courtside Live from the Salem Civic Center. Back with more after this.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Welcome back to the Hoopsville Courtside pregame show. Obviously not live as we continue to talk to student athletes. And we're now joined by junior Ben Boots from Wisconsin Oshkosh. And first and foremost, congratulations on getting to Salem.
Thank you. Really excited to be here. It's been a great experience so far, so we're hoping to make the best of it.
You guys certainly came through a bit of a gauntlet, having to go through Augustana and all that, and an overtime game to boot, which you guys seem to enjoy playing overtime against Augustana. What was the experience like just coming through the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great so far. You know, before Augustana, we've been playing some teams that we're not as familiar with, and then getting back to Augie, a team that we've played earlier this year, you know, always a battle with them. 40 minutes hasn't been enough to settle it, so it was great. It was fun, and we're really excited.
Yeah, you play a double overtime the first time you guys see them. Now you play a single. Heading into that overtime, was there a bit of an eye roll, like, yeah, here we go again?
Honestly, kind of, yeah. I mean, I remember looking back at the first game, going into the second overtime, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And kind of fast-forwarding all the way to our last game last weekend, having to do that one more time, you know, it's kind of unreal, but it was fun. And great team, two great teams going at it, so can't ask for anything better than that.
And you had a pretty successful overtime. You pretty much single-handedly gave the Titans that win. Is that one of those things where you just get into a mode and it seems to come your way, or was it almost designed?
A little bit of both. I mean, I had the ball in my hands a lot. We lost Charlie early. He fouled out in that game with about 12 or 13 minutes left. So I knew I would have the ball a lot. But, you know, down the stretch, we got some other great contributions, too. You know, Brett hit the dagger three. I mean, other guys made some free throws. I think Adam Favorite had a big cut and layup. So it wasn't just me. It was our whole entire team, and we were really happy to get out of there with a win.
Obviously, everybody wants to get to the Final Four and play for a championship. You guys had an interesting up-and-down season. The WIAC turned into a really big battle. Was there any point during that run through the conference, especially as you took your lumps a little bit, that you guys were a little unsure of how this season was going to end?
I don't think it was unsure, but I think it was just, okay, we got to find a way to find our identity, and we got to hit our stride at the right time. Going through the entire conference season, we kind of felt like we weren't playing at our peak ability. You know, we do play in a really good conference, and we know that, but, you know, we never quite hit our stride. And fortunately, we've gotten close to that now in the tournament.
Certainly. You're here. What does it mean for the program, not only to be at Final Four, but does it mean something to be here at Salem?
Absolutely. You know, Salem last year here, it's a really exciting experience for us, and making it to the Final Four, first team at our university, is a great honor. You know, we're hoping there's more ahead for us, though.
Should point out your dad played at St. Norbert, so he certainly knows the small college experience. You've one-upped him here a little bit. Anything going back and forth between the two of you?
I wouldn't say that. I think he's just really excited for me. He's been a great influence for me my entire life. You know, he's the one who introduced basketball to me, coached me a lot growing up. So I'm really fortunate to have him in my corner, and you know, a lot of my success is attributed to him.
One of the things they talk about at Salem is the experience. It's more than just the basketball game. It's even the hotels, and it's the buses and the police escorts and the community service and all that. I know this is early. You haven't experienced it all yet, but what's been your first impression?
It's been great so far. You know, hospitality has been great. Everyone's really friendly. We had a chance to go to Salem High School this morning and work with some Special Olympians, and that was a great experience. So, you know, we're soaking it all in, and we're excited to get on the court soon and practice and get this thing rolling.
What do you? Is it already a win to be here, or does the championship really kind of the icing on the cake that needs to happen?
No, we're not satisfied at all. I mean, when the season's over, you look back and you can, you know, count your moral victories or whatever. But right now, we're focused on getting 2 more wins, starting with tomorrow at Ramapo. So.
Well, good luck. Appreciate you taking the time. We'll talk to you sometime down the road. He is Ben Boots from Oshkosh. Coming up next, we'll talk to Tommy Bonnicum from Ramapo.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault. Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Salem, Virginia. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to Hoopsville Courtside Live. Not so live, as we're talking pre-taped here with the players involved in the Final Four. I'm now joined by Thomas Bonnicum, better known as Tommy. And first and foremost, congratulations, Roadrunners are here. I know for you in 4 years, this has been a goal, and you've made it happen.
Oh, absolutely. Ever since freshman year, our goals have gotten bigger and bigger. 5 of us coming in together, almost starting since freshman year together. And finally, in our last year, thankfully, we got to the big stage.
You guys have had a battle this year. We saw you in Vegas, like we normally do, and you guys had battles there. I think you kind of had felt like a wake-up call to some degree. Then you got into NJAC play, and it seemed like it got even tougher, maybe more so than you guys expected. Was it a hard adversity type year from your vantage point, or is that just us seeing it from the outside?
Absolutely. It's been a roller coaster. It's been tough. We have high ups, we have low downs, and luckily we've been able to fight through adversity in a lot of situations and just come together as a team, and that's what's helped us get through.
Do you guys take games in particular and go, geez, guys, and internalize them yourself and try and learn from them, or do you rely on the coaches to kind of give you the vantage point that you need?
Both. I think we're old enough and mature enough to know and learn from what we did, and for us as the seniors to help the young guys learn as they go through. But the coaches do a great job helping us get ready for the next game. And our motto all year has been 1-0 and focus on the next game that's coming up and on the game that we have at hand before we think about anything else.
As a result of the adversity, I almost feel like you guys quietly seemed to get things together and started moving through the second half of that conference play with a little bit more confidence, certainly. But now you're under the radar because everyone's kind of forgotten about it after the first part. Is that a fair assessment? Did you guys feel less pressure to some degree?
I think absolutely. The beginning of the year, we had the target on our back, obviously being number 5 in the country, and after the year we had last year. But once you get the target off your back, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling going in and putting the target on somebody else's back. And, it gives you a little extra when you make plays and everything. So it makes the job a little easier than having everybody else's championship game against you.
Of course, first weekend you guys end up going on the road to Williams. If anything, you're off the radar. You're not at home. But then the second weekend, you come back to your place. How much did that change the equation in your heads?
It was a little bit unreal, honestly. We went up to Williams, which was arguably the toughest place to play in the country, and we were able to get through there. And then luckily we were undefeated at home this year, and 12-0 going into that weekend, and we were able to use our home crowd, which has been great all year, and pull through 2 more.
You guys had some battles there at home in the last set of games. We'll hear from Coach about them from his point of view later in the program. But you guys had to really kind of gut it out. It kind of fell on your hands at the end there. You got to love your teammate Mosley kind of helping you out a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, we just want to make plays. The 5 seniors don't want each other's careers to end, and that's just what's getting us through. And at the end of the day, I missed a shot, but Mosley was right there, and we just pick each other up. We always have all our careers, and it's been on showcase, this past few games.
If anybody hasn't read, you got banged up last year, and it seems from my vantage point, and we could be wrong, that it maybe affected you a little bit. Did you have to kind of change your game this year, and are you still trying to figure out your game? Because maybe you're not the same kind of player you were in the past?
I think the hardest thing was getting over the fact that I'm not the same player from last year. It was a long off season with a lot of different things, getting back through injury and a few other setbacks, but I just keep fighting, and I feel more like myself now, and I just feel comfortable. And the biggest thing is being senior, and it hits you eventually that this is it for basketball, and you don't want it to end, and you just keep fighting, and it gives you a little extra to make plays at the end of games and even at the beginning of games, and it helps you be a better leader for your teammates and everything. So that's what's really been helping me get through.
First time Ramapo's been in the Final Four since '91. I know that means absolutely nothing to you guys because it's ancient history to some degree. This is the first time in the grand scheme of things. How big is that for the program? How big is that for the school?
It's huge. I mean, it's huge. Coach has had some great teams in the past who unfortunately haven't gotten through this point, and to be the 5 seniors that have gotten him to this point is huge, and he deserves to be here. He's had a great career, and thankfully this was a group that got us through.
Before we let you go, you're in Salem, and everybody talks about the Salem experience and trying to get here, especially for the final year. What does it mean to you as a player? Is it more our story, or is it part of your story too?
Just an unbelievable feeling. Like, this is the biggest stage. We sat there last year after losing and watched the games down here, and just to be here this year is an unbelievable feeling. And we're thankful, but we're ready to go, and we're going to see what happens.
How about the experience? We're obviously talking to you before. You've experienced a lot of it, but there's the community service, there's the escorts, there's the treatment at the hotels and the dinners. What's it been like to take it all in?
I mean, it's been awesome. Even the hotel card at the hotel, guys were taking pictures of and everything. We never experienced anything like this, and I'm just so happy for all the guys, seniors through freshmen, to be able to experience it at least once in their life.
I appreciate the time. Good luck in the semifinals. We appreciate it, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
He is Tommy Bonnicum from Ramapo, back with more on the Hoopsville Courtside Live after this.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Welcome back to Hoopsville Courtside Live. Obviously not so live as we're talking to the student athletes involved in these games here in Salem. I'm Dave McHugh, now joined by Nebraska Wesleyan's Cooper Cook. And first and foremost, congratulations on getting back for the program back to the Final Four, but for you guys getting to here.
Yep, thank you. It's been a really good experience for us, and a really fun year, and we're peaking at the right time, and it's kind of all came together, and it's really exciting for us.
Yeah, the decision for Nebraska Wesleyan to go all in on Division III, at least on the men's basketball side, has been very fruitful in just the second year to get all the way here. You kind of experienced a little bit of that in your freshman year playing NAIA and D3 schedule, and now full D3. What was that kind of transition like, and was it something you guys were looking forward to?
Yeah, I think it was exciting. It was new for everyone. We had been in the GPAC for a while, and playing a lot of Nebraska schools, and obviously moving to the IAC, it was a change in travel, especially a lot of late bus rides, a lot of homework on the bus, but I think it was the right move for us, and kind of levels the playing field, as we weren't able to offer athletic scholarships like everyone else in our old conference. So kind of levels that, and getting here in just our second full year is a really cool thing, and that's where we want our program to be.
What attracted you to Nebraska Wesleyan? I know there's a family side of it. We'll talk about that in a minute. But was there something outside of that attracted you, even though they had that kind of quirky split?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a really good academic school, first of all. And then when Coach took over, and I saw the new system, it was something that I really liked. And I knew it'd be a change from high school, but I was kind of ready for something new. And being able to step out and shoot a lot of threes was fun and exciting. And I think there was just a lot of excitement around the program, and it was something I wanted to be a part of.
get into the NCAA tournament, you guys immediately make an impression. Was there any talk of what this program had done in its heyday? Hasn't won a game in the NCAA since '97, hadn't been in the NCAA since '01. Was there any talk of that, or did you guys have a clean slate?
I'd say a pretty clean slate. We don't really talk about a lot of the history. I mean, obviously we see the banners every day in practice in our gym, so we know there's history there, but this year was all about us, and we weren't focused on history, and it was just this team.
We should point out you're recently named Courtside All-American Player of the Year, which is significant. It's not only recognizing you for what you're doing on the floor, but it's recognizing you for what you're doing in the classroom. What does that mean to you as a significance, and does it kind of drive home to you the student side of this athletic endeavor?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really cool award. It kind of encapsulates the whole student-athlete experience, and obviously academics are really important to us, and Coach stresses that, and that award kind of brings it all together, and it's something that's really important to me, and it's a really cool thing.
So the team gets here. You guys had some fascinating games on the way here. You beat the #1 team by 30. You also shot the lights out of the building, and defensively were on top of your game. You guys even left the floor early. Didn't realize you had to cut down the nets.
Yeah.
What did that game mean to you guys, and what was it like to go through that game?
Right. Obviously we were focused on Friday first in Platteville. That was a really tough game for us, and a big crowd, and I think it was kind of a relief to get through that one. And then going into Saturday, it was just fun. It was, we kind of had the bigger crowd there, in a kind of empty gym, but I think everyone was relaxed, and we had faced press all year against ourselves, and really looked to skip the ball through it and throw it over top, and we're just very aggressive against it, and then luckily shot the ball really well, and everything kind of came together that night, and a really cool win for us.
Of course, Platteville comes down to the last second shot to win it.
Yeah.
You guys ended the game 5 minutes in, basically, against Whitman. That's very different worlds to be playing in. Do you have to kind of change gears in some way? Do you almost catch yourself by surprise in that Whitman game?
Right. I don't think it was a surprise that we shot well. I mean, we see it every day in practice, and we know what we're capable of, but it is a different mindset. Getting a big lead, you have to make sure you stay focused, and I know at halftime we still had a big lead, and against a team like Whitman that's up tempo, it's not as big as it seems all the time, so we wanted to make sure we stayed focused and kept extending that.
So we point out your father played for Nebraska Wesleyan. He was actually part of the program that got here in the 80s several times, finished in third place in those occasions when we had consolation games. What's it like to almost literally follow in his footsteps and help bring the program kind of back to where it used to be?
Right. It's a cool thing with the history. Obviously, he went to 2 Final Fours, and he likes to give me a hard time that I've just been the one so far. But
you got one more year.
Yep, hopefully. And then just to be able to have that experience with him is a really special thing for us. And, it wasn't always Wesleyan for me in the recruiting process, and it kind of came about in an abstract way. But I'm really glad I ended up here, and that we can kind of share that together.
Yeah, he keeps giving you a hard time. If you win the championship, you ultimately trump him for life.
Yep, that's what I told him. I said, he got third place twice, so if we win it, I got one up on him.
Heck, if you win the semifinal, you've got
That's
him.
True. We won the whole thing, though, I think.
I know. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations. Quickly before we let you go, obviously Salem is synonymous with a lot of things in Division III with its championships and the community service and many aspects of treating the student athlete kind of like a star to some extent. What's the experience been like, though, talking to you a little bit early in the whole experience, but what's it been like so far for you guys?
Yeah, it's been great so far. I think the hospitality here has been awesome. Waiters at restaurants and, our community service today have all been wishing us good luck, and it seems like there's a lot of excitement around here, and it's been a really cool experience so far.
Well, again, congratulations. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll look forward to watching on the court.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Cooper Cook joining us from Nebraska Wesleyan here on the Hoopsville Courtside Live. Pre-game shows back live after this.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance, a monster dunk or no-look pass, and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Salem, Virginia. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Welcome back to the Hoopsville Courtside pregame shows. We're talking to the student athletes involved in the semifinals and obviously the championship eventually. I'm now joined by Springfield's representative. It is a sophomore, and it's Jake Ross. And first and foremost, congratulations on getting to Salem.
Appreciate it. It's a great feeling. Glad to be here.
Well, it's certainly impressive. We'll start with the fun here. You guys had the most agonizing wait. You weren't necessarily the last selected team. You were the last revealed team. You had to watch 63 other names go up before you, and you guys knew you were on the bubble. How nerve-wracking was that?
It was nerve-wracking. We knew it was going to be close. We were together. We necessarily weren't the last team in, but we were the last team picked, so we had a lot of those feelings. And it was the intensity in the room and the anxiety was there. So when our name got called, we blew up in emotion, and there's a video going around that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, we've aired it on our air a couple times. It's so cool. At some point in that room, do you start giving up the hope? Because I looked around from the video, and it looks like there's some guys going, I'm just getting ready for the inevitable here.
You prepare for it, but I think you also prepare for the best. So it was definitely, I would say, 50-50. It was intense.
Get into the tournament. Listen, you guys had a rough season. You started off 6-0, and people started looking and going, wow, look at what Springfield's doing. And then you hit a 5-game slide in 6 out of 8, and it really was a struggle. We've talked to Charlie a few times about it, your head coach. From your vantage point, though, before we get to that tournament, what was that group of games like, and how did you guys, in a sense, right the ship out of it?
It was really tough competition-wise. We didn't lose to any necessarily bad teams, so I think winning and losing against good teams kind of prepares you for the tournament, and we do play a very tough schedule, so going through that stretch was a wake-up call, because you know after that you can't lose many more. And we kind of saddled up, came back from break, and put on our big boy pants and chugged away at it. So we're just happy to be here.
Conference race was also kind of wacky. What's it like, though, mentally from an athlete's point of view, to go through that grind, know you're going to go through a grind in the conference, and as you said it, you kind of eliminated any of the bubble that you, or not even bubble, but space you have to play with, as it were.
The conference was crazy. We got some teams that aren't very well known, I would say, nationally, but we highly respect within ourselves. Sure. Wheaton and WPI, Coast Guard, they can beat anyone on every given night. So you got to come out, saddle up, beat those teams, and then with the Babsons, MITs, you really got to come prepared, obviously, with them. So to have that lower end that's very competitive, I think helps us with the big dogs.
Get into the tournament, and I think, if memory serves, you came from behind in every game. You guys weren't exactly in control of any of the games. You may have gotten a lead early, but everybody kind of held you at bay for a while. You had to hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to force overtime against Hamilton. Yep. You had to take some big shots in other games. What was it like to feel like you're battling from behind every game?
It was tough, but at the same time, I don't think we ever didn't believe. I mean, our whole thing this year is believe, and we've had games where we've been up on Cabrini and Albright. They came back, they had a 3 to take the lead by 2, and they missed it, and then we got control, made foul shots, sealed the game. Then we had games like Hamilton, we're coming back down the stretch, and those are games where our seniors like Andy step up. Heath Post played out of his mind against Swarthmore, and then you got Camrell hitting shots from everywhere. So, I mean, we got guys that are willing, able, and ready to do a lot of different things out here.
We'll get to Salem in a moment. I want to backtrack. Your coach tells the story about how you weren't there for a meeting at the Cabrini pod because you were rebounding for a 12-year-old. I know the backstory on that 12-year-old, by the way. He was one of the coaches on hand's son. But you also are giving away your sweatpants, I'm told, to someone who's homeless who may need them more. You, from what I hear, do a lot to give back, asked or unasked. What does it mean to you to do those kinds of things, or what's in your mind when you're in those situations?
I was just looking out for others. I mean, if I'm in that situation, I remember being a kid looking up to older guys. I grew up with a kid that my sister dated, and when he rebounded for me, it was the best thing ever. So, I mean, he played overseas in England, and just those moments are things you remember. And then with the homeless guy, I'm going in, I'm the last kid in there, and I could tell he wasn't a user or anything like that. And I came back out with my sandwich. I'm like, were you out here all night? And he goes, yeah, I was. And he goes, he unpeeled his blanket, and his jeans were ripped all the way down. He goes, I have the blanket over here because I'm freezing. He was shaking. I'm like, I can't, like, how do you walk away from that? So I went back, just 4 pairs of sweatpants. So I just gave him a pair and hopped on the bus, and I guess word got out. But I mean,
oh yeah,
just doing things from the heart, you know, that's what it's all about.
And what's incredible is you're not doing that for a spotlight. Those stories are working their way around. Obviously, you've got a good heart. How does that help you as in the classroom? How does that help you as an athlete as well?
It I would just say helps you in life. I'm not the brightest bulb. I work hard, but if you just communicate with people, show you care, be a good person, I think those are the best qualities to be successful. And I just try to build on them. And my dad's taught me a lot about character, and so has my mom. So I just try to run with those.
Circling back to Salem, part of the experience is the community service side. That's where I was kind of wondering what you're looking. I don't know if you've even gone by the time we're talking. We're talking before these semifinals. If you haven't gone, what are you looking forward to? If you guys have done it, what was the experience like?
We actually just came back from helping out at a complex down the street. We played bingo with a couple elderly people, and it was great. It was a great experience. We have a great group of guys. We all walked away like, we just had a blast, and we were wondering ourselves, like, I don't know how other teams deal with this, but we look forward to that kind of stuff, and we kind of enjoy it. And I think that's the beauty of our group. We all embrace those experiences.
Well, you do a lot of community service. You guys do that READ program in the elementary schools.
Yeah, we do the READ program, do the Walk for Hope. Those are things we do every year. Coach is big on that. We do it as a team. I remember last year coming in like, wow, we got to go do this, and we do it. And I'm like, you know, I'm really glad we did that. And I think a lot of guys this year, freshmen, new sophomores, are kind of really embracing what we're doing.
Finally, what's it mean to bring Springfield here? Maybe in Salem's last year, it's maybe a little more sentimental, but also, you know, the birthplace of basketball, to be here at the Final Four for the first time.
It's great. It's really great to see Coach here actually coaching for once, and not just here to do his job, to enjoy and do his job. But it's been one heck of a ride, and we got a great senior class. Springfield in general is a great support group of people, and I think a lot of people are excited just to see us here. And our school's been great. Our AD, our Brian, and our president. It's great. I think we'll have a lot of people that we don't expect to see in the stands, and it's exciting to be here.
Well, congratulations on getting here. Enjoy the games, and thanks for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
He is Jake Ross. He represents Springfield. When we come back, more from the students here at Salem on the Hoopsville Courtside Live pregame.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
And welcome back Courtside Live. Now, after talking to student athletes yesterday, the teams have taken the floor. Not all four. It is Oshkosh and Ramapo ready to tip off the first semifinal here at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia. I'm Dave McHugh once again, joined by Pat Coleman, editor emeritus, and Ryan Scott, columnist emeritus. We're going to call him here for D3 Hoops.
Columnist active, I hope.
Active. Well, he is
My
active,
goodness.
but he's already going to have the emeritus title, I have a feeling. Welcome back courtside. No, nothing has changed. I don't know what you're seeing on your camera as we get ready for the semifinal.
I mean, I liked seeing the D3 Hoops logo polo on you, but
I made sure I had it all on for the interviews.
It's good to, yeah, exactly. There you go.
There you go.
Continuity for the first half
First
hour of the
45
show.
minutes or so, yeah.
Dave had plenty of time to change. He also took a lap around the building and showered.
Okay. One thing we should point out before we get further into this is this isn't the only shindig going on today. We got women's basketball taking place in Rochester, Minnesota, which really makes Pat's appearance here in Salem a little bit more funny. For the top 5 teams in the country.
Yep.
I think could we have gotten all 4? I can't remember. I forgot to look. We couldn't get all 4 here.
I think
4.
because of the way it was bracketed, right?
I think there was some elimination in there.
That's basically par for the course in women's basketball, too. It is still very top-heavy, even though we have more teams coming to the fore. Wartburg is unbeaten. Amherst, the defending national champ, unbeaten for 60-plus consecutive games. Thankfully, this is not a committee that set them up to meet in the semifinals. So we have got
say that.
we
got lucky.
We might have gotten lucky.
It helps that they're on the West and East too.
And we didn't get the 2 NESCAC teams in the semifinal either. They're on opposite sides as well.
We got them in a quarter, which needed to happen.
Yeah,
we had to
we had to probably eliminate one of the 3
Yeah.
before we got here. So it starts with Amherst and Thomas More. That's the first of the 2 national semifinals. Yeah, we're talking about teams that have at one time won 3 of the last 3 national championships, right? Now that there's only 2 of those are officially awarded anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But Amherst, as I said, comes in riding that huge winning streak. Amherst has played tremendous defense over the course of the decade, but especially again this season.
Not only they seem to getting better with the defense, and their offense is no longer not a concern, a necessity. I mean, they do not. I mean, literally, I have not seen them. I think one game this tournament is the only game this season I have seen them put their foot down offensively. It was against Rochester. Rochester was nip and tuck with them halfway through the 3rd quarter, and finally I just kind of watched, and Rochester kind of started receding, and it was the defense, but then it was the offense for Amherst finally stepped up to the plate. It's like they can put it on if they need to, and that's scary.
Well, we saw it. We saw Amherst play Amherst game in Las Vegas, right? They played Trine. What was it, 41-36, something like that?
Darn close.
Yeah. That's where
Trine put up 12 points in the second half.
That is where Amherst wants to. That's the kind of game Amherst would want to play, but they can play at either tempo, like Dave said. And I think Thomas More is going to force them to play a bit of a higher scoring game because that's Thomas Moore's bread and butter.
And it's kind of interesting. I think we have that in both semifinals because Warburg showed me against Trine that they're more than willing to blow right through a defense like Trine's, which is similar to Amherst, similar to Bowdoin's. And then you got Bowdoin on the other side that wants to play the Amherst type game, and you got Warburg who's like, oh, that's fine, but we want to put up some points. Both these games kind of have an X's and O's feel to them.
Yeah, you've got 2 teams, a team in each game that wants to, or is comfortable scoring as many points as they can, and you've got 2 teams that would much rather keep it as a low number, and we'll just have to see how those match up against each other.
Yeah, I think Wartburg, the big deal for them is going to be not quite home court advantage. Yeah. It's 103 miles up the road from Waverly, Iowa to Rochester, but they are going to have a ton of people there. Yeah. They sold that place out, their home gym. They had about 2,000 people there on Saturday night in the round of 8 against East Texas Baptist, and I think that's going to be huge. They're going to keep following them. Warburg wrestling is done.
I was going to say that was with the wrestling tournament happening last weekend.
Yeah.
Swimming and diving still going on.
Yes, but that's not the spectator sport for Wartburg that
you're right.
Wrestling is.
And
so
track and field's over too, so they've
plenty
got some
of
extra
opportunities.
Students in. Amherst, and nothing against the NESCAC, they don't tend to travel well. I think Bowdoin might travel just because Maine's a little different in some ways.
Distance too,
but it's distant. It's a long trip. And of course, Thomas More, they travel pretty well. Abby Owings is going to be playing her final weekend, which is spectacular. I've always said that their championship in Indianapolis, technically their first. Abby Owings was the reason they won. Nothing against Sydney Moss. Sydney Moss stepped up in the second half and in the last quarter of that game especially, but Abby Owings was the reason they were leading most of it. So,
and she's been a trigger for them for the whole 4 years. So it'll be interesting to see how that wraps up, how her career wraps up. Wartburg kind of feels like a bit of a team of destiny.
Yeah.
They had spurts on Saturday in the round of 8 where they had 12 unanswered points in the first half to get out of a early 7-point deficit.
Yeah.
And then they scored the first 17 points of the 3rd quarter.
Well, and hats off to East Texas Baptist, came back after all.
Yeah,
that.
they did not give up at all. That's a senior class, though. There's 7 seniors, 5 of whom play a lot. Katie Summer, Christy Summer, Morgan Duendorf would be the big 3 that we would talk about on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It'll be, kind of a capper on the career for them.
Absolutely. Speaking of the women in Salem, they come to Salem next year, though not this building. They will be a couple miles that way at the Kreger Center at Roanoke College. It officially, on paper, seats 1,500. They can easily get more than that into that building. So Salem isn't done with this business, we should point out. They're just done with the 2 quote-unquote marquees that have made themselves a name. But the women are coming here. Salem is excited about that from what I've heard, or at least talked with them about.
Seems like it.
A little bit different for the women. They want to get that Salem experience, though. I think a long time ago, I think the women thought the men would be here at the same time, and I think they were experimenting with that. But, hey, women coming here and going to be at the Kreger Center, not a bad idea.
I think that's a great venue for them. It's an ideal size. You're coming into a community that supports Division III. You don't have to tell Salem and Roanoke what Division III basketball is all about. So, and you'll have a already in place staff from the city as necessary, volunteers who will be host families and already know the business from the previous 60 whatever championships that they've hosted.
I mean, the only difference is you might not have some of the staff here from the Civic Center, but it's a Salem event. It's not a Roanoke College event. Roanoke's involved, but it's just not Salem event. You've been over to the Kreger Center, I know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice venue for any kind of game, let alone a Final Four.
Yeah, it's an amazing place, I think being in a place that you can fill up as opposed to one that you're maybe only filling halfway is going to be a big atmosphere change too, and I think will be really beneficial for the women's Final Four.
Last year at Calvin, it did not work. It was so bad. I felt so bad for those kids because I don't remember what they officially listed as the attendance, something like 600, but or something like that.
5,000 facility.
In a huge facility, by far the least attended championship game.
And nothing against Hope and Calvin, but they also hedged their bets. They're hoping that their team's going to beat it. Illinois Wesleyan did the same thing and nearly got it. It didn't work out any of those years. Hope certainly had a better Final Four when we were there in 2013 than Calvin did. After Salem, they'll go 1 year in Pittsburgh, come back to Salem, and then they'll go to Capital. Of course, the men all heading to Fort Wayne. By the way, we should point out Fort Wayne's group is here. And taking things in, soaking things up like a sponge, and I do mean that literally as it sounds. One of their individuals said to me, we want to get in the weeds. We want to understand how this is run. We understand that this is a big deal, and we want to make sure that nothing – I'm putting this in their mouths. They don't want anything to lessen or step back. I think in general that will happen. Ryan, I know you haven't been to Salem all that often. You've certainly gotten the experience, but on top of that, you've known about the thoughts of Salem. Fort Wayne has some big shoes to fill, but at the same time, Salem – almost anybody has big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they want to highlight what they have to offer and their facility there and the people, but I've gotten the impression that they really want to keep the atmosphere going, that it's not just Salem for Salem's sake, but sort of everything Salem means that they want to continue in Fort Wayne.
Of course, that means all-star game. I know the NABC is looking into that. Pat, your thoughts, though, on what Salem has done to Division III, because you and I have seen how much it has changed across the board in other sports.
I wish I had my props with me. On the back cover of the NABC All-Star Game program, I basically wrote a tribute to Salem, and the end of it was Division III wouldn't be Division III without you, and it would not be. They made this what it is at multiple levels, not just in football, not just in men's basketball, because they've had other championships here and other championships, and the NCAA have then followed what these guys did back in the 90s and the aughts
and
the teens and made it they made it part of the expectation. They elevated Division III more than any of us here have.
Oh, no, absolutely.
They made it possible for us to come in and do what we do.
They pushed us.
Yeah.
We're doing this show.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of part because of what they pushed. We did on the field for the Stag Bowl because they basically went to the committee and ESPN said they're doing the show on the field.
Back in 2000, it was like, you guys should do a live broadcast, a live audio broadcast of the Final Four. You should do a live broadcast of the 1999 Stag Bowl. It's like, yeah, you're right, we should. So let's do it.
So they've pushed as much as anybody else. Let's transition quickly into the game because we'll have tons of time to talk more about Salem as the weekend goes on. In a moment here, we'll hear from both the coaches in this upcoming game between Ramapo and Oshkosh. it's kind of like on the women, we're going to see different styles. Ramapo's seen a WIAC school. They're familiar. But Stevens Point is not Oshkosh and vice versa. This is going to be a fascinating back-and-forth game because I would argue Oshkosh hasn't seen a team like Ramapo either.
No, not in the same way. I mean, New Jersey basketball is a thing.
Yeah.
If you're from the area, you know that it's a specific style they're playing, and they play defense, in terms of intention, very similar to the way those Wisconsin schools play. But the style of it, the way they approach their defense is not a way that Oshkosh will have seen. And Oshkosh relies on those outside shooters. So whoever wins that battle along the perimeter is going to go a long way towards winning the game.
In each of the 2 rounds on the past weekend, in the sectional and the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, Noon came out, hit a bunch of shots early. Boots came out, hit a bunch of shots early. Each won in each of those games. They can't rely on having one of those guys come out and light it on fire right away, I think, in my opinion, even though that is a lot of their bread and butter this year. They, if things don't work because Ramapo is such a good statistical defense, they just need to be able to figure out what plan C, D is.
You make adjustments.
Yeah, I think that's making the adjustments, especially at this level. And also, our favorite I'll just let you say it.
Don't blame the officials. Adjust to how the officials are calling the game. By the way, 10 officials who've never called a Final Four. Some of you might go, oh, my goodness. No, that's how this system has changed.
Okay.
These gentlemen aren't just penciled in. They earned their way into this Final Four thanks to the new way officials are done. So there's a lot going on today, and it'll be fun to watch. So coming up, we'll hear from both coaches. I talked to them yesterday about the X's and O's, and a little bit about the experience as well. Then these 2 gentlemen will come back, and we may even have a guest, kind of get you ready for the game as I transition over to NCAA.com for their broadcast. And again, you can see all the links at d3hoops.com. So we'll take a break. When we come back, both teams, coaches, talk about today's game. And then, as the teams are returning to the floor, we will get you final thoughts before tipping the ball off here in Salem. You're watching the Hoopsville Courtside live show from the Salem Civic Center. Back after this.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that.
It's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
Our obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn that in giving, we receive so much more in return. Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
Welcome back to the Hoopsville Courtside pregame show. Obviously not live. We're now talking to head coaches, now joined by Ramapo head coach Chuck McBreen. And Coach, first and foremost, congratulations and welcome to Salem.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you very much.
I know this has been the goal for a long time, not just for you guys, but NJAC teams in general. I know you guys feel you're better than what you guys usually show in the postseason. Here you are. You guys have broken through. It's got to be a really good feeling.
It is. You know, going back to 2003, we fell 2 points short out at Worcester, and that was my 5th year here. And then in my 7th year, we were fortunate enough to get the home games on our court. In 2005, we had the Sweet 16 and the Final 8 on our court. And at that point in my career, I thought that this would be a regular occurrence. Sure. And then now we sit here 15 years later after 2003. We got back into that game. And the first time we were in that game, we lost by 2. This time we're fortunate enough to win by 2.
That was a heck of a game with MIT. We'll get to that in a minute. But quickly about the landscape. You and I have talked about this, and I want to go back quickly to it. How much has changed in the landscape of the NJAC, in recruiting, et cetera, that you guys have had to battle through? And do you think you've now not figured it out, but at least have a good leg up on things?
I don't know if we have a good leg up on things, but just like I told Ryan, years ago, we were like the Wisconsin Conference where you only had one Division I schools in Division III, and if you didn't go to Division I, you ended up in the NJAC. And our conference was at a higher level back then. It started to turn after the 2005 season where we got a bunch of D2s in our state and in the area, and now they were cherry-picking players off of our rosters that would be starters for us. And now the way I word it is our 6th, 7th, and 8th men that were coming off the bench are now your 3, 4, and 5 starters. So it kind of watered down our league a little bit compared to what it used to be. And at that time, we were getting 3 and 4 teams in the tournament. Our league was really good. But now, because of the Division IIs in our state, it's taken us, like I said, 15 years to get back to this point. And it's hurt our league. But at the end of the day, we're still a good league. We're very competitive, but at one point I think we were up there in the top 3 or 4 leagues in the country.
I think looking at it, and we can get into it another time, it seems like recruiting has come back to some degree. You guys did get past MIT. You guys had a heck of a weekend last weekend in terms of games. You could not necessarily sit down and relax at any point. Good for the program to be ready for this weekend, or did it wear you guys out a little bit?
Well, I think it's great for the program. I mean, it started up beating Williams on Williams Court was a tremendous feather in our cap. And then to come home and host and be fortunate enough to host, a couple of teams had to lose, and we got the luck that happened. And then we were able to host, and I think home court played a big part in it. I mean, we had Middlebury, F&M, MIT. We had 3 great teams at our place, and all the games went right down to the wire. Middlebury was winning a good portion of the way, and MIT made plays down the stretch to beat them by 3. And then, us and F&M were a 2-point game with about 2 minutes to go. And we made a few plays down the stretch. And then the next night went back and forth. I mean, MIT is a great team, well coached and all. And it just happened that we made one more play at the end of the game. Mosley rebounded Tom's miss and got fouled. And we were fortunate he made both free throws, and we were able to hang on for the victory.
Certainly an impressive victory to get here. You've now had a week to look at Oshkosh, at least on tape. What do they present? Because even you come to the Vegas Classic, we certainly give you some tests. You've seen teams similar to them, but do you think you've seen anybody like them this year?
No, I mean, that conference is probably the best. If it's not the best, it's right at the top. I think it is the best. And, I mean, we talk about going through the grind of the NJAC every night. It's a tough game, but out there, I mean, this team came out, was in the Final Four, and they've lost to some people at the bottom of the league, and even in the quarterfinals, they won by 2 and all. But they're playing so well at the right time, and their road here was very difficult. I mean, Augustana was in the finals last year. For them to come out of that game, they've done a tremendous job. I'm very impressed with them. They're very disciplined. They play really hard. What I said to my team, they remind me of Bo Ryan's Wisconsin team that upset Kentucky when they were undefeated and all, just with the way they play, the way they shoot the basketball and believe in one another and play. They play off of one another. They really have a good understanding of reads and stuff, playing off of one another.
When I'm watching your game, or anybody's watching your game, what should we key on? We can look at the stats and see who leads the team in all those categories, but what should we key on to see how you guys are playing and how things are flowing for the Roadrunners?
Well, it's going to come down to the pace of the game. If we could get the game going up and down, that would be more favorable for us. Even though they'll go, they're not opposed to going. But for us, I think we got to get the game being played at our pace. And then the biggest thing, like I explained to you before, is that we got to get our guys to truly understand to separate both ends. If we have any droughts offensively, which we've had throughout the year and all, we have to play the defensive end. And fortunately, we had 44 points in the first half against MIT, only scored 24 in the second half, but we held them to 26 and like 30% field goal percentage. So right now we're 5th in the country in field goal percentage defense, so that's a big stat for us. So, I mean, we're going to, if we want to have any opportunity to be successful Friday night, we're going to have to play the defensive end.
You kind of hinted at this in the first 5 or so minutes of the game. How are we going to know you're playing the game you want to play, or you're going to need to start making adjustments?
Well, we're going to have to make adjustments because they do so many things well. So we're going to have to make adjustments. We're going to go into the game with a game plan and different things that we're going to do in order to defend them and all. But based on the way they play and how they execute, we might have to change up what we do throughout. But the bottom line is nothing's going to change as far as the tempo goes. We have to get the game, at our pace as opposed to playing at the pace that they want to play it at.
You are in Salem. And obviously you are going to come whether your team was with you or not as a member of the national committee, but you are here with your team. What's the experience been? Obviously early, we're talking well before the games are taking place on Friday, but what's the experience been so far? What are you guys looking forward to?
It's just been a dream come true because when I took over Ramapo 20 years ago, my goal wasn't just to get to the Final Four, it was to win a national championship. But it's just like the lottery, you got to be in it to win it. So in order for us to win a national championship, you got to get to the Final Four, and we finally got this opportunity. So it's a dream come true for me, my program. I have such a great group of high character kids these last 2 years. I'm going to hate to see these 5 seniors go when they finally do go. But it's just been so rewarding, the Ramapo community, the way they supported us throughout the season, especially down the stretch. The send-off they gave us yesterday was amazing. And now we arrived in Salem last night, and we're trying to take all the festivities in and embrace it and enjoy it.
When we talk to you in Vegas, there's always a show you're going to. Bad news is I don't think you either A, have time, or B, there is a show. What are you going to do with yourself?
We have plenty to do. We got to get ready for Oshkosh. We're going to watch some video. We're going to get some rest and then get back here tomorrow for our shoot around and then get ready to go for a 5 o'clock tip.
Well, I appreciate it. It's great to talk to you in this venue versus the one we always see you in Vegas. I appreciate you taking the time, as always. Give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those watching?
I'm just so excited to be out here. I appreciate, like I've always said, all you guys do for Division III. And we're looking forward to this opportunity. And hopefully we'll put our best foot forward Friday night.
Well, congratulations again. Thanks for taking the time. He is Chuck McBreen from Ramapo. Back with more Hoopsville Courtside Live when we were.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction and knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance. A monster dunk or no-look pass, and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
Welcome back to the Hoopsville Courtside Show. Obviously not live. We're now talking to the head coaches, and the first one on deck is the head coach of Oshkosh. It is Pat Yelcomb. And first and foremost, congratulations, you're here in Salem.
Dave, thank you. We're beyond excited to be here.
Obviously, this is the goal. We know that. You're now the 5th YX school to get here. I know that carrying that mantle to some degree is significant, but being the first program to get here for men's basketball, I know is probably even more significant.
It is. And someone who grew up in Wisconsin and really appreciated, I think, our league and our history and the tradition of it, and someone who personally wasn't good enough to play in our league.
I understand.
It has. And it was one of the things that really brought me excited about the Oshkosh job and the potential, because we thought it had the potential to eventually get to this level and compete, hopefully, at a Final Four and possibly a national championship level. But we do have a lot of pride in the history of our league and what it's done, at a national level. And so we do carry that flag a little bit.
We talked a little bit already, but now that you've gotten a week under your belt, you've gotten a chance to get ready for this game, and you've seen Ramapo. What do you guys think you need to do in the semifinals to advance to the championship game and deal with a Ramapo squad that's, I would argue, a little bit different than what you've seen all year long?
I agree, and I think, as I mentioned on the program, just you watch 5 minutes of them on film and you understand very quickly why they're here. And both just the talented players play really hard. The thing that jumps out is just their defensive numbers are, top 5, 6 in the country. And how they get about it, it's maybe a little bit different. They're changing up their defenses. They turn people over at a very high rate. So for us, our key in the postseason has been we haven't turned it over. And we've been averaging 8 turnovers a game, which is down 3-4 from our regular season, which was critical. So just being sure and sound with our passing and our catching, because they get a lot, Mosley and those guys, they're terrific at turning turnovers into points on the other end, turnovers to touchdowns. So that's going to be a huge emphasis for us. They're very physical on the glass. Their big kids are like NFL tight ends, so just keeping those guys off the glass, limiting them to one shot. And then the other thing that jumps out is just how much they get to the free throw line. I mean, they're constantly seeking contact, attacking off the dribble, and us sliding our feet, playing position defense, but being physical without fouling. It's going to be critical. Keep them off the free throw line.
You guys kind of had come through a gauntlet on this tournament. We're not going to name everybody, but Wittenberg in the second round, considered one of the better teams in the country this year. You then had to get through Augustana at their place, which is always tough. Again, one of the better teams in the country. Does that anything help you at this point in time, or is the slate clean and what you've done in the past is literally the past?
Yeah. I think I would actually answer that both ways. I think certainly those experiences have toughened us, have given us confidence in our ability to compete against the best teams out there. You named, the 4 teams we played, all of them were very challenging, and we could have lost each one of those games, no question about it. So I think there's confidence from that, but will that affect and impact this game against Ramapo? I'm not sure. It's an independent thing. I think the confidence of our guys, and I think more than anything, us really honing in on what our identity for this team is, and the things that we've, believed to be true, but maybe have been a little inconsistent throughout the year. We've done a really nice job in the postseason in terms of just being solid defensively and just playing smart basketball. And that's what's going to take for us to compete and hopefully be successful against Ramapo.
We look at the stat sheet, we know the names. But if we're watching the game, what should we key on to understand how you guys are playing at that time?
For us, we have the potential to be very balanced. Our starting 5 all average double figures. We have a nice blend of being able to play inside and outside. And we've relied on both. And for us, it really does start on playing inside first. And if we can establish that, that allows us then to obviously, we can spread the floor with terrific shooting. And again, it makes us difficult to guard. But we have to make sure that we're not relying solely on three-point shooting, that we have that good balance of playing, touching the post and playing in the paint first.
A lot of people talk about the WIAC being one of the better conferences in the country. No argument there. The battle this year was pretty brutal. You guys ended up kind of in the middle of the pack, which surprised a lot. Does that actually prepare you for the tournament you've come through and these games now, or is that just a regular season thing that you take your lumps and you have to somehow forget them?
I think it really has prepared us. Number one is just, every Wednesday and Saturday for 2 months, we're playing someone really good that we can lose to. It's different teams, different years, but our league was really balanced and deeper this year than it's been maybe for a while. And even going down, the 7th, 8th place teams were very dangerous. And so just the fact that you have to be ready, and and it's hard to be ready every night in, night out. It takes pretty special teams and special players. So just the fact that the heightened sense of, boy, we better be ready, we better be focused and locked in, or we're going to get it served to us, I think helps because, again, the teams when you get into the tournament are so capable. And if you're not right, you're going to be down and it's going to be tough to dig out of that. So I do think our saw was sharpened throughout that, that league run. And again, it exposed some things that we were inconsistent. It allowed us, after we lost to Point in the semifinals, to just kind of, as a coaching staff, to kind of regroup, reflect, hone in on a couple things that maybe in the games we didn't play as well were sort of those sources. And then our guys did a great job of focusing in on those areas. We got some extended practices now, and we've really cleaned some things up, and it's allowed us to play our best basketball at the right time.
So if I'm watching this game, which I will be, in the first few minutes, 5 or 10, what am I keying on to know whether you're on your game and what you're trying to do is working, or you need to start making adjustments?
Gotcha. I think 2 things I would look for. One, that we're limiting them to 1 shot. Because they are just terrific on the glass. Another thing is just, again, are we taking care of the basketball? And I like our chances if we can just be playing in the half court and make them score against our set defense. That's when we're at our best. But if we're getting in a up and down, shooting a lot of quick shots and turning it over, I think that's an advantage for them.
And finally, we're here in Salem. You guys have made it. You're, again, 5th team in the WIAC, first time in program history. Final year of Salem, it appears. What's the experience been so far? Granted, we're talking to you well before the games have started, but what's the experience been so far, and what's been the emotions of it all?
Just fantastic. It doesn't really hit you till you get out here. And again, someone who has not traveled out here before, have thought about it, heard about it. I talked to a lot of people who have, and so you got sort of this vision. But just being able to come out here with your team and go through that journey with them is really, really cool. And we're just trying to enjoy every step of it while staying focused on why we're out here, and that is to play our best basketball.
Well, I appreciate your time as always. You know this. We give the coach the final word. Anything you want to say to those who may be watching?
Well, I'm thankful for the opportunity and represent UW Oshkosh and our community, and I'm thankful for all our support. We had a terrific send-off yesterday. We had a ton of people out to see us off, and community, faculty. It hits home just how many people are in your corner and are supporting you, and so I'm really appreciative and thankful for all those, and without them, we're not here.
Well, congratulations again. Good luck in the game.
Thanks, Dave.
He is Pat Yelcomb. When we come back, we'll talk to his counterpart, Chuck McBreen from Ramapo. You're watching the Hoopsville Courtside pregame show. Back with more after this.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Salem, Virginia. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
And welcome back courtside here at the Salem Civic Center, Salem, Virginia, home for the final time of the Division III Men's Basketball National Championships. Thanks for joining us on Hoopsville Courtside. I know we haven't been paying too much attention to the scroll that's going along the bottom here, but you can, of course, still reach out to us. We're monitoring the D3H hashtag, especially on a game and a day like today. I'm Pat Coleman. I was called editor emeritus of D3Hoops.com. I'm getting dragged out of retirement, and I'll probably be back even more next year. Joined by Ryan Scott, our Around the Nation columnist, and now joining us is Mike DeWitt, the head coach of Ohio Wesleyan University, who played Ramapo at, oddly enough, the D3Hoops.com Classic. Also saw UW Oshkosh play in the second round against Wittenberg. So, Coach, first of all, welcome back on the show. I know we've had you Hoopsville Courtside and Hoopsville desk side, I guess, many, many times, but thanks for joining us
Always
again.
good to be here, Pat. Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it. You obviously saw Ramapo back in December. Maybe the rotation wasn't quite the way it is now. We talked earlier in the show, maybe Tommy Bonnicum wasn't 100% like he is now, but your thoughts, and you guys handled Ramapo, so give us your thoughts about how to defeat Ramapo.
But yeah, we did play very well against Ramapo. I think as we talked about Division III basketball all season, Pat, it's about there's a lot of parity this year, and it depends upon the matchups. And from an Ohio Wesleyan standpoint, we matched up against Ramapo really well. We have guards that can handle pressure, and we can shoot the three really well. And that's something Ramapo, I think, struggled with in late December. Having not seen them since then, I'm not sure if they've gotten better against that type of team. Oshkosh, I think, is an entirely different animal than what we presented for them in terms of matchups and challenges. So I'm really interested to see how Oshkosh is able to do. If Oshkosh can handle Ramapo's initial ball pressure and get the ball inside, which they do a lot more than we did as a team, I think Ramapo will struggle against them. But if Ramapo can make Oshkosh turn the ball over and get out in transition and get some easy baskets, Ramapo is going to be in the game. So it's an interesting contrast of styles, and I think the team that's able to impose their style on the other is going to be successful tonight.
One of the things that we wrote about this week was that part of this surge by Oshkosh through the bracket was predicated on them kind of going back, refocusing on basics, especially handling the basketball. Now, obviously, they're not going to handle the ball like Axelrod did for you guys for
Right.
the last 17,000 years or however long it was.
Sure.
Seems like he played a lot more than 4 years. But that's certainly something that they want to do. And I know that we saw Oshkosh shoot really, really well in both of the games last weekend in the round of 16 and the round of 8.
Yeah, and Oshkosh has Ben Boots, who is obviously maybe not as dynamic as Nate Axelrod for us, but he's a really good guard. And I think he can handle pressure. I think he can play against Ramapo without turning over. If he does, I think that really benefits Oshkosh, because then they'll be able to play the way they want to play and attack inside against Ramapo. And, on the other end, it's interesting because Thomas Bonnicum did not play great against us. He was recovering from an injury, and I think he's probably more healthy now than he was in Las Vegas in December. He's a really good player. He can do a lot of things very, very well, and I'm not sure Oshkosh will be able to match up against him very well with their size, and Thomas can step outside a little bit. So, again, contrast the styles. Whoever's able to impose their style is going to have a really good chance to win this game.
Ryan, remind us of the Tommy Bonnicum story.
Well, so he hit a half-court shot to win the NJAC championship game last year, and in the bottom of the pile suffered a couple of pretty major injuries. He needed surgery over the summer. He played in the tournament last year. He played through the season this year as he was recovering. But he seems, especially with his 33 points against Williams, is probably back at full strength at this point. Also, as Coach said, what they've got with both Bonnicum and Mosley is guys who can play inside and outside. Oshkosh they've got big guys and they've got guards, and the tweener is not quite up their alley. And so if they can take advantage of that, Ramapo can maybe use big guys in that way.
As you can see, the lights are going down behind us. We have to be off the air before NCAA.com goes live at the top of the hour. But, of course, you can watch the game in its entirety on NCAA.com. We have a link right above this stream player at the top of this page, or you can go to the scoreboards. But before we do, and before we have the national anthem is another thing we have to get out before. Ryan, quickly, your keys to the game we talked about.
Perimeter. The defense from Ramapo, top 5 in the country. Oshkosh relies on those outside shooters. Who wins that game is going to be big. And then if Oshkosh can establish the post game and get inside and get some foul trouble, that'll be key too.
All right, we got to go. Thanks for joining us on Hoopsville Courtside. We'll be back in a few minutes between the games, in a couple hours.